My 8-year-old daughter was left at the airport by my parents while they boarded first class with my sister's family. The message said, "We all voted that she should stay." I didn't shout. I did this. 7 days later, their lives started falling apart. It was supposed to be a big morning. Maddie's first trip without me, 8 years old, thrilled, running on orange juice and adrenaline. She kept checking her backpack like it might disappear. Headphones, coloring book, the little stuffed rabbit she refused to leave behind. My parents and my sister's family were taking her to Florida. Sunshine, theme parks, the works. I couldn't get time off, so I packed her favorite snacks, kissed her hair, and told myself this was fine. She'd be surrounded by family. What could possibly go wrong? At 7:50 a.m., my mom texted a photo from the gate. Maddie grinning, one missing tooth, both thumbs up. Underneath, "Boarding soon." I smiled at my phone, told a coworker she's off on her first adventure, and tried to ignore the small ache of envy in my chest. Then, 2 hours later, another message buzzed through. "We all voted that she should stay." I frowned at it mid-meeting, half listening to someone talk about projections and deadlines. Stay where? It didn't even register as serious, just another one of my family's weird, cryptic jokes. I set the phone face down and got back to work. I wish I'd called then, but I didn't. And by the time I understood what that message really meant, my daughter was sitting in an airport with a stranger, waiting for a mother who didn't know she'd been left behind. The rest of the morning dissolved into noise, emails, conference calls, the usual chaos. Every so often I'd glance at the photo of her at the gate and feel that quick pulse of pride again. She was flying across the country. She was brave. She was fine. By mid-afternoon, the office lights had turned the color of old paper. I checked my phone again. No messages. Of course not. They'd be in the air, probably halfway to Florida. I told myself to stop hovering. When I finally left work, the parking lot smelled like heat and asphalt. I unlocked my car, glanced one more time at my phone, and saw the same unread text staring back at me. We all voted that she should stay. For the first time, it felt strange. Off. I decided to call once they landed, just to hear her voice, to tell her goodnight. It was a long day. I wanted something normal. They answered on the second ring. Laughter in the background, the clatter of luggage, someone saying something about a rental car. "Hey," I said, smiling. "You made it." Put Maddie on. A pause. Then my mother's voice, light as if we were talking about the weather. "Didn't you get our message?" "What message?" "The one that said we all voted she should stay." I laughed, because what else do you do when your brain refuses the obvious? "What does that even mean?" My father's voice came next, calm, factual. "She was acting up." We decided it was better she stay home. The laugh died in my throat. "You left her?" My sister cut in, bright, efficient. "Relax. We called an emergency childcare agency. She's fine." "Fine?" Mom again. "It's a good agency. 5 stars on Google. We'll text you the name, Mom. We're catching the shuttle. Talk later. Click." For a moment, I just stood there in the parking lot, phone still pressed to my ear, listening to nothing. Then the silence started to ring. I called again. Voicemail. Again. One thought cut through everything else. My child is alone. And just like that, I was moving, bag over shoulder, keys in hand, no plan, just movement. The number came through a minute later, texted from my mother's phone. No message, just a link and the name of an agency I'd never heard of. When someone finally answered, her voice was bored, brittle. "Childcare dispatch." "My daughter," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "She was picked up from the airport by one of your sitters." "I need to know where she is," more typing than talking. Then, The child's been collected. She's safe. The caregiver took her home to wait for pickup. What's the address? Another pause. Keys clicking. Sending it now. A text appeared with a street name I didn't recognize, halfway across the city. No apology, no explanation. Just logistics. I drove. Fast. Too fast. Streetlights smeared across the windshield. The steering wheel was slick under my hands. Every time I blinked, I saw Maddie sitting somewhere strange, small legs swinging, waiting for someone who never came. By the time I pulled up outside the address, my pulse was a steady drum. The neighborhood looked tired, one flickering streetlight, the smell of damp concrete. A woman opened the door before I could knock. Her face said she'd already decided not to like me. "You're the mother?" she asked. "Yes," she snorted. "You people have some nerve. She's been here all day." She turned, calling over her shoulder. "Kid! Your ride's here." Inside, the place smelled of disinfectant and microwaved dinners. Maddie sat on the couch, backpack beside her, rabbit in her lap, eyes huge and glassy. When she saw me, she ran. I caught her mid-stride, nearly knocking us both over. "I was good, Mommy," she whispered. I waited. I held her tight. "You did everything right. Nobody gave me your number," she said. "I called the one they left. It kept saying the number couldn't be reached." The sitter hovered near the doorway. "Nobody gave me your number," she said. "I called the one they left. It went straight to a voicemail that said the person couldn't take calls." I tried 3 times. "That was my mother," I said. "Thank you for staying." She shrugged. "I'll send the invoice." We left fast. Maddie clung to my hand all the way to the car. The night smelled like jet fuel and rain. She climbed into the passenger seat beside me, still gripping my fingers like an anchor. Neither of us spoke on the drive home. The only sound was the hum of the tires and her small, uneven breaths. At home, Maddie fell asleep on the couch before I could even untie her shoes. I covered her with a blanket, sat beside her. She looked so small again, soft hair against the pillow, rabbit under her chin. My phone glowed on the table. The text still there. We all voted that she should stay. I read it until the words blurred. They thought leaving her behind was a decision they'd get to forget. They were wrong. A week later, they would understand what it means to be left behind. I wish I could say what happened at the airport came out of nowhere. It didn't. It was just the loudest echo of something that had been building my whole life. If you grow up in a family like mine, you learn early that fairness is a rumor. I was the responsible one. My sister Tracy was the sensitive one. That's code for Lydia cleans up, Tracy gets applause. When we were kids, I did homework at the kitchen table while Tracy drew on the walls with crayon. Guess who got grounded? Hint. Not the artist. Mom said it was because Tracy was delicate. Dad said nothing at all, which, in our family, counted as agreement. By the time I was 10, I could make dinner, fold laundry, and sense Mom's mood from 3 rooms away. Tracy, at 7, couldn't pour her own cereal, but somehow already knew how to get what she wanted. She'd cry, Mom would melt, and I'd be the one apologizing for something I didn't do. Even then, I understood the rule. Love was a limited resource, and Tracy had the premium subscription. In high school, I stopped expecting anyone to notice me unless something broke. I became efficient, invisible, useful. Teachers loved me. Mom said I was reliable, which in her language meant boring. When college came, the choice was simple: go or get stuck. My parents contributed exactly nothing except advice. Expensive, unsolicited advice. "Don't get too ambitious," Mom warned. "Men don't like women who outshine them." So naturally, I got ambitious. Scholarship, double shifts, instant noodles, the holy trinity of the overachiever. Meanwhile, Tracy was finding herself, which mostly involved finding bars that didn't card and boyfriends who paid for drinks. She majored in art, then psychology, then undecided, before dropping out to marry Ryan, who still lists his job as freelance. Freelance, what remains a mystery. When I graduated, Mom said, "You think you're better than everyone now?" I didn't answer. I was too tired from climbing a ladder she'd never admit existed. Fast forward a few years. I had a steady job, a mortgage, and a husband who actually did his own laundry. Tracy had 2 kids, a mountain of debt, and a talent for turning every crisis into a group project. Whenever her rent was late or her car broke down, she called me. "I hate to ask," she'd start, which always meant she absolutely didn't hate it. And somehow, I always helped. Because I'm the good daughter, the one who fixes things. Mom loved to remind me of that. "You make more, sweetheart," she'd say, like that ended the discussion. "It's nothing for you." Nothing for me, everything for them. At first it was small, bills, birthday gifts, short-term loans. Then came the big stuff. Family trips where I paid the deposit, the meals, and the oops, forgot my wallet moments. Tracy called it generosity. I called it blackmail with better manners. The house came next. Jason and I bought a fixer-upper as an investment. Something sensible. Adult. Before we could finish painting the kitchen, Tracy showed up crying about her landlord, a broken lease, and nowhere to go. "Just for a few months," she said. Her version of a few months could survive a nuclear winter. She paid a quarter of what we'd agreed, complained about the rest, and posted on Facebook about how greedy people don't understand family. Guess who greedy was? Hint, not the tenant. Every time I mentioned rent, she had a new tragedy. A dentist bill, a stolen laptop, a lost job that she never really had. Mom always took her side. "She's doing her best," she'd say. So was I, apparently in the wrong direction. The one time I tried to stand firm, Mom accused me of putting money above family. I wanted to say family put me below money a long time ago, but sarcasm doesn't work on people who lack self-awareness. Then came the Florida trip. That was supposed to be the olive branch. Tracy said, "The kids would love it. We'd love it. But flights are insane. Translation, pay, and we'll go." I'd been drowning in deadlines, no chance to take time off, so when she offered to bring Maddie along, I actually said yes. It felt like a solution. Maddie gets her first vacation, and I get a week to breathe. I bought the tickets, the hotel, even the matching t-shirts, because Tracy insisted family photos matter. She meant her family. Mom thanked me like I was donating organs. Tracy said, "We'll take such good care of her." They took my money, my daughter, and my peace of mind, and managed to lose all 3 before noon. Looking back, I shouldn't have been surprised. This was the pattern, just louder this time. For years, I'd been the safety net, the walking apology, the invisible backbone. They'd trained me to believe that saying no made me cruel, and saying yes proved I loved them. But standing in that small apartment later, holding Maddie while she cried into my neck, something in me burned clean. Not anger, clarity, the kind that strips away every excuse you've ever made for people who don't deserve them. They'd always said family comes first. I finally agreed. Just not theirs. 7 days after they left Maddie behind, their lives started to unravel. Maddie woke up crying around 2 in the morning. The kind of cry that starts quiet, like she's trying not to bother anyone, then breaks all at once. I was out of bed before I knew I'd moved. She sat up, hair tangled, eyes glassy. "Why didn't Grandma want me?" she whispered. That one sentence hurt more than everything that came before. I pulled her against me. "She doesn't know how to be good," I said softly. "That's not your fault." She nodded like she understood, which somehow made it worse. When she finally drifted off, her breathing even and small, I stayed awake staring at the ceiling. Every heartbeat felt like a countdown. By morning, the decision was already made. I just hadn't said it out loud yet. The house was still when I got up. Coffee burned on the warmer. Sunlight hit the pile of unopened mail like it was accusing me. Maddie's stuffed rabbit sat on the counter next to my phone. I scrolled through messages until I reached the last one from my parents. We all voted that she should stay. Every time I read it, it felt more like a dare. Jason was out of town on a business trip, so I didn't wait for anyone's opinion. I opened my laptop and started digging. Emails, bank statements, rental records, every little transaction that said, "You owe me nothing," but somehow meant, "You owe me everything." Then a new notification popped up, another charge from the Florida resort. Room service, under my name. They'd actually ordered margaritas on my card. I laughed, the kind of laugh that sounds like it might break something on its way out. Fine. If they wanted numbers, I'd give them numbers. By the time the coffee went cold, I had the files open in a neat row on the screen. 36 months of rent, discounts. $54,000 they never paid. $3,500 for a vacation I didn't take. $1,200 for an emergency childcare service I never approved. $58,700. It wasn't even about the money, not really. It was about the math of disrespect. You could measure it to the cent. I called a lawyer friend Jason had used once, a calm, no-nonsense guy who sounded like he ironed his ties. Told him I didn't need therapy. I needed a demand letter. He sent me a template. "Keep it factual," he said. "Clean, professional." Perfect. I'm very good at professional. I started with the header, outstanding balances. 2 words, polite as a slap. I attached the lease, the statements, the screenshots of Tracy promising to catch up soon. I added a note about the Florida trip and the emergency child care. Every line was a receipt for a favor they'd pretended was free. When I was done, I read it 3 times. No threats, no swearing, just numbers and dates. The pure language of consequences. I copied my parents on the email because secrets are how they win. Then I hovered over send. For a second, my hands shook. Not from doubt, just adrenaline. Click. That sound was better than applause. The kitchen was still bright with screen light. Across the table, Maddie was hunched over a sheet of paper, drawing, head down, tongue between her teeth, the way she always did when she wanted something to be perfect. A rabbit this time. Big ears, backpack, one paw raised like it was waving goodbye. "What's it doing?" I asked. "Going home," she said. I watched her color in the sky, too much blue, the way kids always overdo it, and felt the last of the shaking leave my hands. "Smart rabbit," I said. She smiled, proud. "He's not scared anymore." Neither was I. The day after I hit send, my phone lit up like a slot machine. Group video call, Mom, Dad, and Tracy. They were still in Florida. Palm trees, drinks with umbrellas. The kind of background that makes outrage look ridiculous. Mom started before the picture even cleared. "Okay, what is this supposed to be?" Tracy laughed so hard she nearly spilled her cocktail. "A bill?" "Really? $58,700? "You're hilarious." Dad smirked. "She's bluffing." "She just wants us to feel bad I didn't answer. Sometimes silence works better than a speech." Mom leaned closer. "You know we don't have that kind of money. You make 5 times what we do. How could you even send something like that? You wanted to humiliate us?" Tracy jumped in. "Yeah, St. Lydia showing everyone how generous she is. What's next? You'll charge us for oxygen?" "It's not guilt," I said. "It's math." That did it. Their smiles wobbled like bad Wi-Fi. Mom blinked. "Oh, come on, you can't be serious." "I am." Tracy gave a nervous little laugh. You think you can charge your own family? What kind of person does that? The kind of person who doesn't forget you left a child at an airport. The noise from the pool stopped. Even the wind seemed to quit. Mom tried for the high ground. You don't treat family like strangers. Exactly. Tracy's voice jumped an octave. You're exploiting us. Then stop being exploitable. They all started talking at once. 3 voices, 1 chorus of panic. I waited. When they finally ran out of words, I said, 10 business days, and ended the call. Click. My reflection looked back from the black screen, calm, maybe even bored. That silence felt like power. The guilt parade arrived before breakfast. A dozen missed calls, texts, voicemails layered with fake concern. Mom's read, "We're worried about you. This isn't like you." Tracy's was shorter. "Take it back before you regret it." I ignored them, printed the letter again, and mailed the hard copy. If they thought it was a bluff, they could watch it arrive with tracking updates. The morning they flew home from Florida, my doorbell went off like an alarm clock. 3 sharp rings, entitlement in Morse code. I opened the door halfway. Mom in front, Dad behind her, Tracy clutching her phone like she planned to record an exorcism. Mom smiled the smile she uses on waiters. "Sweetheart, this is just a misunderstanding." "No, it's not." Tracy rolled her eyes. "You're just angry about Maddie. Don't ruin the family over this. You did that at the airport." That one hit. Tracy's mouth opened, closed, stayed that way. Mom tried again, softer but sharper. "You've changed." "Good." Dad sighed. "Can't we talk about this inside?" "I'm fine out here." Mom's mask slipped. "You're turning your back on your own parents." "You left my daughter," I said. "I think we're even." The silence after that was heavy enough to hang pictures on. Mom's lip trembled. "You'll regret this." "Maybe," I said, "but at least I'll regret it in my own house." And I shut the door. The latch clicking into place sounded better than applause. The smear campaign started the same night. Tracy posted a photo of a cocktail with the caption, "Money changes people." Mom commented, "Proud of you for staying graceful through pain." Graceful. This from a woman who once cried in a grocery store because they ran out of her favorite rosé. By morning, cousins were texting to ask why I was suing family. I didn't answer. I forwarded everything to my lawyer. He called me that afternoon. "Interesting family you've got," he said. "You have no idea." I sent a defamation warning and a gentle reminder that public posts are admissible evidence. Gentle? As gentle as a grenade. The posts vanished within hours. In their place appeared, "Sorry for the misunderstanding. All good now." Even their emojis looked terrified. Then came the legal chess match. For weeks they refused to pay, swearing they'd fight it in court. My lawyer didn't blink. He sent another letter, dry, professional, and lethal, citing the signed rental contract between Tracy, her husband, and me. 3 years of missed payments, all documented. He attached the original agreement, Tracy's signature right under the clause about monthly rent, and the bank records showing how little she'd actually paid. He also included copies of the messages where they'd asked me to pay for the Florida trip since we're taking Maddie, followed by the evidence that Maddie never even boarded the plane. Each exhibit had its own label, like a miniature grave marker for every favor they'd called family. He included a footnote about the child abandonment incident, phrased as relevant context. After that, they stopped threatening and started whispering. Mom called once more, voice shaking. "Do you really want this to go public?" "You left my daughter at an airport," I said. "It's already public in my head." She hung up. 2 weeks later, my lawyer forwarded an email. Settlement accepted. Large first payment, remainder by installments, all notarized and signed. Jason read over my shoulder. "They caved?" Eventually. He smiled. You sound disappointed. No, just surprised it took this long. He laughed. You're terrifying. Efficient, I corrected. Terrifying's extra. I poured another coffee and stared at the subject line. Final agreement. It didn't feel like victory. It felt like oxygen finally returning to the room. Room. That night I sat at the kitchen table while Maddie drew beside me. Another rabbit. This one wore sunglasses and carried a tiny suitcase. Where's it going? I asked. Anywhere it wants. I smiled. Smart rabbit. The house was quiet. No calls, no noise, no guilt humming through the walls. Outside, a plane passed overhead, softer than before. Maddie didn't look up. Neither did I. I thought about everything. The call, the door, the lawyers, the silence that followed. Not triumph, not revenge. Something steadier. They left her behind. I left them behind. And for once, nobody followed. It's been 3 months since the settlement. The payments arrive on time, automatic transfers that feel more satisfying than any apology ever could. Every 30 days, a polite email reminder. Family reimbursement, installment received. I don't even check the balance anymore. I just smile and move on. The rental property finally makes real money. New tenants, actual contracts, rent paid in full. Jason jokes that the house is finally earning its keep. I stopped being the family bank and became a landlord instead. Strange how cold and practical suddenly feel like peace. With that steady income, we both scaled back a little. Nothing dramatic, just normal hours for once. Jason still works in tech. I still work too, only without the constant overtime. Now, evenings actually belong to us. We eat dinner together, talk, laugh. Maddie's happier, and so are we, though my laugh still sounds a little rusted. Word travels, of course. Apparently, Tracy and her husband both have real jobs now. She works front desk at a dental office. He's doing deliveries. They tell everyone it's temporary, that they're regrouping, but according to a cousin, they mostly complain about being tired. Welcome to the club. Mom hasn't called. I think she finally figured out that silence costs less than arguments. Life's quieter, simpler. I keep the rental income separate, labeled college fund/therapy fund/emergency chocolate fund. Jason calls it the peace dividend. We're fine. Better than fine. Some nights we sit on the porch with Maddie between us and watch planes cut across the sky. She still draws rabbits sometimes. They always make it home. So, what do you think? Did I go too far or not far enough? Let me know in the comments and subscribe for more. My 17-year-old daughter spent 3 days cooking for 23 people for my mom's birthday party. My dad texted last minute. We've decided to celebrate at a restaurant. It's adults only. I didn't make a scene. I did this instead. 15 hours later, the door started shaking. It was 10 minutes before people were supposed to start arriving when I got the text. I was standing in the doorway of the kitchen, trying not to cry over a beet salad. Not because of the beets, though they do look vaguely like something you'd pull out of a surgery tray, but because my daughter was bouncing around the kitchen like her entire future depended on whether Grandma liked her lavender glaze, and maybe it did. In her head, anyway. Ava had been up since 5 a.m. That wasn't an exaggeration or a dramatic flare. I heard her alarm go off. She'd already baked, prepped, frosted, stirred, burned one thing, then remade it, and steam cleaned the floor once because it was, in her words, giving health inspector energy. The table was set for 23 people. Handwritten name cards, fresh flowers, printed menus. The whole room smelled like thyme, butter, and something sugary I couldn't identify. It smelled expensive. Ava had curled her hair. Her apron was clean. She was glowing in that tired, adrenaline-fueled way you only see in cooking competition finalists and brides with second thoughts. And then my phone buzzed. Group chat. Family thread. The one we usually used for things like Happy Easter and blurry pictures of someone's casserole. It was from my dad. "We've decided to celebrate at a restaurant. It's adults only." No punctuation. No apology. Just that. At first, I thought I misread it, or that it was a joke. Ava had just pulled a tray of sugar-free pear tarts out of the oven for Grandma's diabetic neighbor. She was humming. I stepped out into the hallway like I was going to answer a call. I wasn't. Not yet. I just needed to stop my hands from shaking first. I stared at the message. "We've decided." Not I. We. I called my dad first. It rang twice. "Hey," he said, sounding cheerful. "You get the message?" "You're not coming?" I asked. My voice was steady, but only because my body had already entered some kind of survival trance. No, we changed plans. It was just easier this way. We're already here." "You're at the restaurant right now?" I asked. "Yep, just sat down. The menu looks great. Everyone's here." A pause. "Why?" "Because Ava's been cooking for 3 days," I said. "You said we'd host it here. She made enough food for 23 people. She's been up since 5 this morning." He was quiet for a second. "Oh, well, tell her not to take it personally. She can freeze the leftovers, can't she? Gotta go. Waiter's here." Click. I stared at the phone. Then I called my mom. She picked up and said hello, like nothing was on fire. "Did you really just not come?" I asked. There was a sigh on the other end. "Honey, don't start. We just thought it would be more convenient. And honestly, we didn't want to risk anyone getting sick." "Sick?" "She's 17, Jenna. It's sweet, but it's not exactly safe to serve that many people food cooked by a child. What if someone got food poisoning?" "She's not 5. She's taken classes. She built a menu. She sanitized everything. She even made diabetic options." "Well, that's nice," she interrupted. "But it's not real cooking. Not like at a restaurant." I hung up. I didn't trust myself not to scream. I called my sister next. Not because I expected better, but because part of me hoped maybe, just maybe, she didn't know. That maybe she'd been left out of the decision. She hadn't. "Oh, Jenna," she said. "Don't guilt everyone over this. She's crying. She's dramatic. She's exhausted. She's 17. She needs to learn that not everything is about her. She made food for 23 people, and none of us wanted to be her test subjects." The way she said test subjects made my jaw tighten, like Ava was some little rat in a home ec maze. I hung up mid-sentence. I didn't care what she was about to say. I stood there for a second, trying to remember how to breathe. Behind me, Ava was still talking. "Do you think the pomegranate glaze is too sweet?" I didn't want to overdo it. Also, is the lighting too warm? I wanted everyone to feel like it was a real restaurant, but not like fake fancy. And, "Mom?" She stopped. I turned. My face must have said too much, because she stopped mid-sentence. Her eyes flicked down to the phone in my hand. Then she took it. I didn't stop her fast enough. Her thumb opened the group chat. Her eyes scanned. Then she saw the photo. A big, long table. Glasses clinking. My sister's kids, who are barely 18, smiling at the camera with plates already full. My mother beaming. My father holding up a wine glass. Ava stared for a second too long. Then she hit call. "Grandma?" she said. I couldn't hear the other side, but I saw her nodding, and then not nodding. Her face crumpled in on itself like someone had stepped on her chest. She didn't wail. She didn't sob. She just let the tears fall slowly, like something inside her had given up, like she was embarrassed even to cry over it. I reached for her, but she stepped back. She put the phone down gently, like it was glass. Then she turned toward the cake. It was gorgeous. 3 layers, piped rosettes. "Happy 67th, Grandma," written in dark chocolate. She stared at it, said nothing. I stood there, useless. And then I thought, no, not this time. Not again. I didn't know what I was going to do yet, but I knew I wasn't going to let them be the ones who defined her moment, or ended it, not without seeing what happened next. I used to think the worst kind of pain was seeing your kid cry. Turns out it's watching them try not to, because they don't want to make you feel bad. That night, after everyone else was clinking glasses at a restaurant, I stood in the hallway outside her bedroom, holding a plate of untouched roast duck and wondering how the hell we got here. Of course, deep down, I knew exactly how we got here. It started when I was born. And no, I'm not being dramatic. I was the second daughter, 2 years younger, unplanned. My mom never actually said the word mistake, but she didn't have to. She said things like, "We thought we were done after your sister," and "You were a surprise, but a sweet one," which translated into plain English means, "We didn't want another one, but we're making do." My sister was everything they wanted. Graceful, outgoing, blonde. She could spin in a circle and land applause. I could take apart a broken fan and rebuild it to run better, but all that got me was a lecture about not touching man things. She took ballet. I took apart a toaster once and got grounded for destroying appliances. They paid for every dance class, every recital, every gold-sequined fever dream. When I asked if I could do a weekend handwork course, leatherworking, I think, it was, "We don't have money for that. Besides, what would you even do with it?" What I did was turn it into a business. Years later, I run a small but successful company that makes custom handmade home goods. My husband works with wood. Together, we make decent money. Nothing fancy, just solid, honest work. My parents still call it a nice little side thing. Meanwhile, my sister has 2 degrees in literature and dance, and about as much job stability as a sneeze in a wind tunnel. She's lovely, though. Still elegant, still adored, and because the universe has a sense of humor, I still help her out financially from time to time. Quietly, without comment, because that's what I do. I pay for the things no one thanks me for: birthdays, travel costs, the occasional broken water heater at my parents' house, all quietly absorbed by the bank of, well, Jenna's doing fine. They treat my money like community property and my opinions like spam mail. And then came Ava, my daughter, my heart, my karma in the very best form. She's like me, but bolder. Niche interests, sure, but 0 apologies. Her hands are always flour-dusted or sticky with some sauce she's inventing. She once cried because her hollandaise lacked emotional depth. I have no idea what that means, but I love her for it. Ava wants to be a chef, not likes to cook. Wants to be a chef. She reads restaurant reviews the way other kids scroll TikTok. She talks about mise en place like it's a philosophy. She's already planning which culinary school to apply to and whether she wants to specialize in patisserie or savory. She's 17, and just like they did to me, the family keeps trying to smother that fire. Oh, it's cute that she likes to play in the kitchen. You'll grow out of it. She's too sensitive to work in that industry. Maybe she should consider something more academic, like her aunt. Right, because crippling debt and no income is what we're aspiring to now. I've watched Ava bite her tongue more times than I can count. Once, after a family brunch, she went into the bathroom and stayed there for 20 minutes. I found her later wiping her eyes and blaming it on an onion she'd chopped 6 hours earlier. So when she came to me and said, "Mom, I want to cook for Grandma's birthday this year, the whole thing, just me," I was a little stunned, but also proud. She knew how hard that would be, how cruel they could be. She wanted to do it anyway. I asked her 3 times, "Are you sure?" Each time she nodded harder. "I want to show them what I can do." And then she did. She made a menu, printed it, organized the kitchen like a military operation, took into account every food allergy, every dietary need, every personal preference. My dad doesn't eat mushrooms. My mom thinks cilantro tastes like soap. Ava adjusted for both. She went shopping with her own money, sourced ingredients, tested everything. She even borrowed a friend's cake turntable so she could practice clean frosting lines. Every night she'd show me her list, check marks beside each completed task, and then ask, "Do you think they'll like it?" I told her yes, every time. But I hated that she even had to ask. On the day of the party, she woke up at 5 a.m. Again, no exaggeration. I heard the clatter of pans, the soft hum of classical music, she says it helps her concentrate, and the tap of her heels across the tile as she danced from oven to counter and back. She looked exhausted by 4 p.m., but glowing, radiant, like she was doing what she was meant to do. You know the rest. They didn't show up. They went to a restaurant instead. All of them. My parents, my sister, my niece and nephew. Even the ones who always show up late with store-bought dip made it. The only people missing were me and my daughter, who had made a 3-tier cake and piped Happy 67th in dark chocolate curls. They didn't just reject the food, they rejected her. And they didn't even bother to lie about it. But here's the part I haven't told you yet. That night, as Ava sat in her room pretending to scroll her phone, I got a text. A payment notification. My business card, the one I sometimes use to cover family costs, had been charged $1,327.90 at a restaurant downtown. The same restaurant they were at. The same number of guests. They used my card to pay for the meal that replaced my daughter's dinner. I stood in the kitchen, still holding her tart crust in one hand, and stared at the charge. At first I laughed. It was either that or throw a plate. Then I felt it, the kind of still, angry clarity that comes right before a storm. They didn't just erase her. They made me pay for her erasure. And they thought we'd just sit quietly and let them. They thought wrong. I should have been the calm one, the adult. The mother with the soothing voice and the wisdom to say, "It's okay, honey. You did your best." But I was not in that mood. Ava was still in the kitchen, standing stiff in front of the cake. Her hands were clenched at her sides like she wanted to throw something but didn't want to ruin her own frosting. I couldn't blame her. That cake was a masterpiece. She'd piped chocolate lace along the bottom and candied edible violets for the top. It looked like something you'd see in a glass case behind velvet rope. She turned to me with red eyes and said, "We should throw it all out." I stared at her. "No. Mom, no. If they won't eat it, someone else will." "Like who?" I didn't have an answer yet, but my hands were already moving. I grabbed my phone and started scrolling. Ava didn't know it yet, but I was about to set this entire evening on fire. First, I called my husband. He was still at work, which somehow made me even angrier. "I need you home. Now." He didn't ask questions, just said, "Be there in 20. Then I started calling everyone else. Old friends, neighbors, my cousin Sam from my dad's side, who always got left out of things for being too political, which was code for calls out our parents when they're awful. People from our local community group. A woman I'd met twice through a charity bake sale. My dentist's receptionist. I didn't care. I told them the truth. My daughter spent 3 days cooking for her grandmother's birthday. They ditched her. She made 23 meals. I need people who can eat. It wasn't an invitation. It was a summons. And to my surprise, people came. Fast. By the time my husband pulled into the driveway, the first 2 cars had already parked. One neighbor brought a bottle of wine and an entire extended family who didn't have dinner plans anyway. A woman I barely remembered from a book club 2 years ago showed up with her teenage son and a bouquet of tulips she'd grabbed on the way. Word spread faster than I expected. It was like watching a protest materialize dish by dish. Ava was horrified at first. She stood in the hallway whispering, "Oh my God, Mom, what are you doing?" "I'm salvaging what's left of your dignity and dessert. Help me find more chairs." "But," I turned to her, "you cooked. For 3 days. You made something beautiful. This isn't pity. It's defiance." That shut her up. But only because her brain was clearly buffering. We shoved together 2 folding tables and started putting out the food. By the time the 3rd wave of guests arrived, Ava had retreated to the kitchen to reheat things and whisper panic to herself over sauce temperature. That's when the journalist showed up. I didn't invite her. Someone else did. A friend of a friend who was in food media. She walked in with a small camera bag and a huge appetite for drama. "I heard what happened," she said. "Is it okay if I taste a few things?" I looked over at Ava, who was standing frozen by the oven, eyes wide. She looked like someone had just asked her to sing on live TV while holding a soufflé. I said yes for her, and handed the journalist a plate. The journalist didn't just taste things. She photographed them, asked about ingredients, took notes. At one point she whispered to me, "You know she's better than some of the professional chefs I've reviewed, right?" I swallowed hard. "Tell her that." Eventually, the crowd settled. All 23 seats were full. Ava peeked from the kitchen like a nervous raccoon and asked, "Should I serve the appetizer?" I said, "No, you should serve your menu." And so she did. The room quieted as the first course went out. Then came the murmurs. "Oh, wow. Is that lavender? This is incredible." By the main course, there was clapping. By dessert, someone stood to make a toast. To Eva, to the girl who cooked an entire feast, didn't quit when she was kicked down, and whose food tastes better than anyone we've ever paid to feed us. She got a standing ovation. And then, because the universe apparently has a sense of timing, a second cake appeared. Not hers, a store-bought thing someone brought as backup. But they insisted Ava cut hers. She did. She smiled. Barely. But it was real. And I let myself breathe. But the night wasn't over. At 2 a.m., I was still awake when I got the text. It was a link. From the journalist. A feature-length article already live. The birthday that wasn't, how a teen chef cooked for 23, was abandoned and ended up hosting the most memorable dinner of the year. The article didn't just praise Ava's food, it told the story, the full story, how her grandmother's birthday was supposed to be at our house, how Ava cooked everything herself, how the family decided, without notice, to go to a restaurant instead, and how they used my card to pay for it. They didn't name my parents, but they did name Ava, and they made sure readers knew exactly who had stayed, and who had left her behind. I stared at the screen in shock. Then I checked the comment section. It had already started. "She's amazing. Where can I eat her food? Who leaves their own granddaughter like that?" I looked at Ava, who had fallen asleep on the couch, still in her apron, hands curled like she was still holding a spatula, and I knew this wasn't the end of it. Not even close. Because that article was already making waves, and some people wouldn't like what it stirred up. There's a special kind of silence that happens right before someone knocks on your door in rage. You don't hear footsteps, or a car, or shouting, just stillness, like the air itself knows to hold its breath. I was washing dishes when it happened. Half the cake was still in the fridge. I was humming something under my breath and letting myself feel the tiniest drop of peace when bang, bang, bang. I dried my hands, peeked out the window, and almost laughed. They really came. My parents were standing on the porch in matching windbreakers, both fuming like unpaid actors in a courtroom show. And standing slightly behind them, arms folded like she'd practiced the pose in a mirror, was my sister. I opened the door because I was tired of hiding, but I didn't invite them in. "You need to fix this," my dad snapped, skipping hello entirely. My mom chimed in with, "Do you have any idea what you've done to our reputation?" My sister didn't say anything yet. She was letting the elders go first. Very old school of her. I blinked. "What I've done?" They shoved past me before I could stop them. Into my hallway, into my kitchen, into my home. Like they still thought they had some kind of authority here. "You told the media we abandoned Ava," my mom hissed. I crossed my arms. "I didn't tell them anything. A journalist came, tasted the food she made, heard what happened, and wrote about it. Honestly, I think they went easy on you." My dad jabbed a finger toward me. "You think this is funny? Everyone at church read it. Our neighbors read it. My golf group won't even reply to my messages." I raised one eyebrow. "Devastating." That's when my sister stepped forward. "You need to tell them it wasn't true," she said, her voice trembling with manufactured calm. "You need to say it was exaggerated, that it was taken out of context." I stared at her. Taken out of context? Did someone hack your thumbs and send that text from the restaurant? Did I imagine the $1,300 charge on my card? Did Ava hallucinate the photos you all posted from the dinner? My mom's voice cracked. "She made us look like monsters." "No," I said quietly. "You did that yourselves. She just cooked." That's when the volume went up. They weren't even talking to me anymore. They were talking at me, around me, through me. "She's just a child, and she's already learned to weaponize the internet." She humiliated her grandmother for attention. "You raised her wrong." She's dramatic. She's ungrateful. And then, this one hit me like a slap. My mom turned toward Ava, who had quietly walked into the hallway behind me, and said, "You should be ashamed of yourself." I didn't remember moving. One second I was in the doorway. The next I was standing square between them and my daughter. That's when my husband walked in. He didn't even ask what was happening. He just saw their faces, saw Ava's tears, and stepped in like a bouncer. "Out," he said. My dad laughed. "This is a family matter." "No, this is my home. You came here to scream at a 17-year-old girl who made you dinner. You don't get to hurt her twice. Not today. Not ever." He didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. They stood there for a moment, fuming, rattling, deflating. Then my sister muttered something about legal action and stormed out. My parents followed. Slam. Silence. Ava was still standing behind me, silent, rigid. I went to hug her, but she turned toward the living room window. There were phones pointed at our house. 3. I leaned closer and saw the source. Our neighbor from across the street, Jeff, standing on his front lawn with a stunned expression. The same Jeff who runs the local Facebook group and live-streamed our last neighborhood BBQ. Of course. I gave him a wave that said both hello and, "I will set your compost bin on fire if you post this." Too late. That evening, a video appeared online. Title: The grandparents from that viral teen chef story just showed up at her house and screamed at her. Watch what they said. The internet did what the internet does. It lit a match. The comments were brutal. Imagine being this bitter over a cake. They sound like they're auditioning for villains in a Hallmark movie. Who yells at a kid who cooked them dinner? One comment just said, "This is why some of us cut off our families." That night, before I blocked my parents, I saw the final round of texts. First, "You've ruined us." Then, "We'll take legal action if you don't issue a correction." Then, "This is elder abuse." Right. I didn't reply. I blocked all of them, my parents, my sister, their side of the group chat, and I deleted the card they'd used to pay for that dinner. That particular act of financial betrayal wouldn't happen again. Later, I posted something simple. Not a rant, not a call-out, just a sentence. We stand by every word, and we're done protecting people who hurt our daughter. I expected backlash. What I got was support. Old friends messaged me. Strangers messaged Ava. A local chef invited her to stage in his kitchen over the summer. Someone from a culinary program she'd dreamed about said they'd be watching her journey with interest. We didn't celebrate, but we finally exhaled. Fast forward 1 year. Ava got in. Not just anywhere. The program she used to whisper about. The one she thought was impossible. She's still in her first year, but she already has clients. People who want her to cook for events, bake for birthdays, cater for small dinners. Some of them even reference the article. Her food blog, it's flying. She posts recipes, photos, videos. She has followers, real ones, people who see her. She's different now. Not louder, not bolder, just steadier. She never reached out to my parents again. Neither did I. We heard they moved, some town 2 hours away. Too many people had stopped inviting them to things. Too many friends suddenly had plans. They told someone they wanted a quieter life. Sure. Ava never saw a real apology, and I never got my money back for that restaurant dinner. But we got something better. Clarity. Peace. Ava got a future built with her own 2 hands, and they can't take that from her. So yeah, that's how my daughter's first heartbreak turned into her first headline. How a ruined birthday turned into a full-course rebirth, and how I stopped funding people who thought they could buy silence with guilt. I chose my daughter, and I'd do it again tomorrow. But tell me, did I go too far, or just far enough? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more stories like this, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell.